Chapter 10 of Building a Railroad by a Self-Made Man. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 10. Saved by Love.
"Must I die like this?"
groaned Don as he strained unavailingly at the rope which held him with the grip of a vice to the table. Then his eyes rested with a kind of fascination upon the sealed can of nitroglycerin which stood within a foot of his face. The contents of that can would easily blow the building and everything it contained to small fragments, and Don began to wonder if, after all, that would not be an easy death. "I'll never know what hit at any rate. It'll be all over in a flash." Just the same, the very idea of such a death was truly horrible. It aroused in him to make a fresh effort to free himself, which proved just as ineffectual as the other. Jim Kelso and the Italians had done their work only too well. Already 10 minutes of the fateful half-hour estimated by Kelso as representing his span of life passed away. Don glanced at the candle on the shelf, which was leaning slightly against the cord, and saw with a shudder that the flame had drawn perceptibly nearer the strands, the severance of which meant the end of all things as far as he was concerned. Outside, the clouds had gone into the northwest, and the full moon was out in all its glory. At this moment it was rising above the summit of the quarry, and its rays began to shine at the open window, bathing the boy's head and shoulders in a flood of light. Suddenly, Don thought he heard the sound of a light footstep without. The tension of the situation had made his hearing unusually acute. He listened with a desperate eagerness, mingled with a thrill of hope. The sound was repeated, this time nearer. The silence had hitherto been so profound that there could be no mistake but that something or someone was moving about the quarry. Summoning all his energies, Don shouted, "Help! Help!" Instantly there was a quick pattering on the gravel, and then the slight noise of something striking against the outside of the building. "Help! Help!" repeated the young engineer with a fearful glance up at the burning candle and the cord on which his life hung. Almost instantly a shadow cut off the ray of moonlight shining in at the door, and a soft voice which the boy readily recognized called out, "Don Winthrop, are you in there?" "Heavens!" gasped Don. "It is Nellie!" "Don Winthrop! Quick, Nellie!" cried the boy almost sharply. "If you would save my life, come to me here. Follow the sound of my voice." The blind girl entered the room and came toward him as straight as a die. Don watched every step she took with the greatest of anxiety. "Stop where you are," he called peremptorily. The girl stopped as ordered. "Advance 1 step more," he said quickly. She obeyed. "Kneel down," he ordered. She did so. "Stretch out your right hand slowly. That's right. Move it to the left until you feel a can that's standing there. Grasp it by the handle and draw it toward you gently. For heaven's sake, don't let it jar against that rock or even the boards of the floor. It contains nitroglycerin." "I know," said the girl calmly. "You know it?" gasped Don in astonishment. "Yes," she replied simply, "and I know there is a rock suspended from the ceiling above by a cord, that the cord is attached to the wall, and there is a lighted candle beside it. Am I not right?" "You are, but how in the name of all that's wonderful can you tell all these things? For you certainly cannot see them, unless you've recovered your sight in some miraculous manner." "No, I cannot see them, but I know about them just the same. I'm going to take this can outside," she said, rising to her feet and turning around. "Do I face toward the door?" "Almost. Just a shade to the right. Now, be careful and don't strike the can against the door jamb. Go slowly. I'm quite safe now. The rock may fall, but I need fear only its flying fragments." Nellie, with a precision that was truly marvelous, carried the can of deadly explosive outside of the shanty and then returned. The candle flame was now flickering close to the cord. "Put your left hand on the wall, Nellie," directed the young contractor. "Now walk quickly along until I say stop." She followed his order to the letter and came to a halt within reach of the shelf. "Raise your hand higher and you'll feel the shelf. Right? Remove the candle you find there." The flame blew across the cord as she took the candle away. "Now come here," he said, and she obeyed him, holding the lighted candle in her hand. "I'm securely tied to a table which has been turned on its side. Unless you have a knife, you must burn the cord which holds me to the table." "I have not a knife," she said as she extended her disengaged hand and felt for the rope, which had been passed a number of times around Don's body. Then she carefully brought the flame of the candle to bear on the strands of the thin rope, and having severed the line in one place, she dexterously managed to release the boy from his bond, and he rolled over on his face. "My hands are tied separately," he said. Once more she brought the candle's flame to bear on the rope, which she burned through without so much as scorching his skin. Don then shook himself free of his fetters, and rising to his knees, flung his arms about the blind girl and pressed her to his breast. "Nellie, it is over. You've saved my life." The girl's head fell upon his shoulder, and she hung, a limp, dead weight, in his arms. He looked into her face. It was as pale as marble, and her eyes were closed. "Great Scott!" he exclaimed. "She's fainted." End of chapter 10.